On the line now to discuss the latest global economic developments in oil sector is economic expert Dr. Zeina Mansour. Welcome to the Qnews Economic Bulletin. What is the current level of the conflict risk premium in oil prices, and how might this change further?
Good evening. The part I heard from the question was in relation to the oil prices. There were major risks represented in the two wars in Ukraine and in the Middle East. The increase of the political risks led to the increase in the risks also regarding the prices of the oil barrel. But after the Israeli response to Iran, the price became $75. And OPEC and all the organizations of countries producing oil could absorb these risks and control the oil price. But the Middle East region witnesses a lack of geopolitical stability and possibility of wars, which will make us facing changes in the price of the barrel of oil. And after these factors end, we will return to the fixed factors of the market, which are demand and supply.
And beyond the geopolitical situation, are there other factors that are driving oil prices now?
Naturally, the factors affecting the oil price are the geopolitical factors. Second, the supply and demand process among the producers and the consumers, and the most important consuming economies are China and India. We know in the Chinese economy there is a kind of a slowdown and reduction in the demand, and in the international economy there is an increase of the supply of oil. That's why the available amounts at the level of the supply are higher than the levels of demand, in addition to other influential factors, including the international rate and interest rate that affects the flow of cash and the investments. And despite the fact that there is an increase in the investment of the fossil fuel, the interest rate from the US Federal Bank affected the economic factors at the level of the macroeconomy. Returning to the topic of what happened in the Middle East in the recent days, the geopolitical factors were the major, and the OPEC and OPEC Plus managed to absorb these alerts and these risks and conduct a balance and changes and amendments in the prices and in the supply and demand in a manner that goes in line with the major economies in China and India and in the European square and the Asian square, in addition to the oil investments in the US market and the reoperation of the oil refining establishments, in addition to the addressing of economic slowdown, inflation, and providing more job opportunities in the US economy.
Okay, and also can I ask you, you mentioned China's economic slowdown and that's impact on oil demand. Do recent Chinese stimulus measures show potential to boost crude consumption?
I apologize, I couldn't hear the question clearly. Can you repeat it?
Okay, you mentioned China's economic slowdown impacting the oil demand. Do the recent Chinese stimulus measures, could those have a potential to boost crude consumption?
Yes. Regarding the part I could hear from in the question in relation to the crude oil and the fossil oil, the prices are stable between 70 and 75 dollars, and this is a manner of absorbing all the geopolitical turmoils in addition to the elections. Until the elections are over, we will face some kind of vagueness and uncertainty starting from the time of the elections on November 5th until the 20th of January. In this phase, we witness some changes in the prices of the barrel of oil and the barrel of Brent. All of these things are absorbed within a process of balancing between the demand and the supply and increasing the supply. All of these things are there to absorb any geopolitical or political shocks or any changes in the international market to maintain the stability of the price of oil barrel at the level of 70 and 75 dollars for the crude oil Brent.
And could I ask you, do you think that the US election could impact oil markets, especially perhaps in terms of sanctions and trade policies with Iran and other oil exporting nations, depending on who gets into the White House?
In relation to the Iranian developments, there was a real concern at all levels, political and economic level, that the Israeli-Iranian confrontation and the targeting of oil locations or nuclear establishments would lead to an increase in the price of oil. This is beside the sanctions that have been imposed on the Iranian economy for years now, and the resulted reflections on the oil market. All of these factors represent pressure on the price of oil barrel. But I'd like to reiterate that the management by OPEC Plus absorb all of these variables and all of these transformations. It also tries to absorb all the resulted risks from the stop of the supply chains, especially the supply chains that were cut, because any disruption in the supply chain would increase the price of the oil barrel, in addition to the sanctions on oil producing nations, including Iran, that tries to use the black market or the parallel market to escape from the sanctions. But all of these things shows that the cautious policy followed by OPEC Plus was important to manage the price of the oil, in addition to the pressure practiced by Washington to prevent a dramatic response at the Israeli conference on the night of the Iranian elections. All of these things participated in the stabilization of oil price, beside the other factors, including Shukran Jazilan.
I'm going to have to end it there because we've just out of time, but thank you so much for your insights there, Dr. Zaina Mansour, our economic expert.